Hey, Adam.
Hey Brian, how you doing?
Good. Happy New Year to you.
Same to you. I'll give you one guess as to what I'm going to ask you about right now.
Colts?
NFL Network report that the Jets have asked permission to speak with you. I know this is not a new topic. We talk about this on a regular basis. That's to your credit. But what can you tell us about that situation right now?
No, I appreciate the question, Adam. I certainly understand where you're coming from. I'll say the same thing that I've said the last few weeks. We have a very important job to do this week. We're behind. We have a short week. And everything that I'm going to do, I know the staff's going to do, is focus on the Colts and try to put our guys in the best position. Understand the question, humbled by it, but really focused on what we need to do here.
And just as a brief follow to that, I mean, this is a topic we've addressed several times with you for all the right reasons, given the offensive success that you guys have had here. Talk about, I guess, the process, that's led you to putting up record numbers on that side of the ball here, and kind of how you've played into it and maybe who else has contributed in significant ways.
Well, everybody's contributed. It starts with our ownership, and then Brandon for bringing the players in with Sean and Dan and the rest of the guys, Malik and Terrence and all the scouts. And Sean is our leader as a head football coach of developing a culture that he's created here. And, we all work for those guys, and we try to do our part. And then, ultimately the credit goes to the players. We're going out there and executing at a high level when their number's called. And we're at that time of year where you got to be at your best. So it's a collective effort. No means a one-man show. It's a lot of people doing a lot of work, putting a lot of time and effort and energy into it. Having a common goal, respecting one another, having a little bit of fun along the way, which is important. But it is certainly, said it before, it's the greatest team sport. It's coaches, it's players, it's executives, it's ownership, it's people that work in the cafeteria, it's video department, it's everybody hand in a play, the trainer room, the equipment room, having their hands in the pot, so to say, and doing their job. And that's what we try to focus on every day. And it's a credit to Sean for building the culture that he's built here.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, Happy New Year.
Same to you, Sal. How are you?
I'm good. I find it interesting and a cool storyline as someone who's from Buffalo that both offensive coordinators here are from Western New York. And just wondering.
Yeah, I worked with Nick.
Yeah, you worked with him in Kansas City, right?
Yeah, yes.
And can you tell us about that relationship, and also just how it is kind of interesting that, both you guys from Buffalo here coaching in this game against each other?
Yeah, I think the world of Nick. He was a receiver coach with me. He's just fantastic football coach. Great person, great family man, really good friend. We'll be competing against one another on opposite sidelines, but have a tremendous amount of respect for him and his family. And he's done really good for himself, to no surprise.
And on the offensive line, I know a lot of people point to John's return as helping out a lot when it happened, but Ike Butker seems to have really kind of stabilized that position for you, and maybe a name that's flown under the radar. Can you give fans a little more insight into him and what's allowed him to take advantage of this opportunity?
Sure, he is an under radar guy. That's just the way he likes it. He's smart and tough and dependable. He's got very good character. He works his butt off. He's a team first guy, and those are important qualities to have for any position, but particularly for an offensive lineman. He's a grinder. He does his job. He's a good communicator. He's done a good job for us. We're going to have a tremendous challenge this week. Tremendous challenge.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Coach Dave, Mookie Hawkins, Buffalo Sports 1080. How you doing?
Good, Mook. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Happy New Year's to you too, Coach. Your Western New York roots are very heavy. I mean, from winning in high school to playing safety down at Rochester University there. So how much have you playing safety helped you understand defensive concepts when preparing your scheme?
Yeah, well, I played that there at school, and then when I actually started out coaching, I started out on the defensive side of the ball, at William & Mary there for the first year, then got an opportunity for 2 years to learn under Nick Saban on the defensive side as a graduate assistant. And then when I started at New England with Bill, I was there on the defensive side of the ball for 2 years. So I played on the defensive side. I coached on the defensive side for 5 years. It's important to understand both sides of the football. I think I was very fortunate early part of my career to get a good education that way.
Absolutely. And it seems like a dream you can never wake up from, Coach. Basically playing from around the corner at St. Francis, you grew up witnessing these Super Bowl runs by the Bills back in the 90s. So how have this dream journey, basically come full circle for you, Coach?
Yeah, I'm just privileged to be here with this organization. It's a class act organization that does things the right way. And they brought a lot of good people in that surround themselves with good people, and you work together. And it's a good organization to be part of. That's for certain.
Absolutely, Coach. Wish you nothing but the best and good luck this week.
Thanks, Mook.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Good, Matt. How are you?
I'm good. You mentioned, focus on, this task, short week, all that. Totally respect it. I'm just curious, how do you mitigate kind of the distraction of like the players maybe interest in your future and maybe coming up and, throughout this whole process, like, a couple guys last week or 2 weeks ago, I think it was Diggs and Beasley were like, we don't want to lose Brian, and we're not going to give him any glowing reviews because we don't want anybody to, like, how do you mitigate that part of it?
You have a tremendous challenge ahead of yourself. I mean, that's the NFL. You better be focused on what you're doing this week and concentrate on the team that you're playing and put everything into it. And that's where everybody's energies and focus is going to be. You're sitting here in a tournament playing, the best teams in the league all year that all of them qualified for a particular reason. They're all good. And we're going to work as hard as we can work to try to put ourselves in a good position to play a good football game. And that's all you do. It's a week to week in this league. And you guys know that. I'm not telling you anything you guys don't know.
And on the Colts, Darius Leonard, DeForest Buckner, I mean, you've probably already started to get into them pretty detailed. What are your impressions of them on tape?
They're really good. They have very good players. They have a good scheme. They have a good coordinator and Matt Eberflus. They fly around the ball. They turn the football over. They're good at stopping the run. They tip balls up in the air and make breaks on the ball for a quarterback. And there's been a lot of bad decisions by quarterbacks against this defense where they've gotten their hands on the ball and turned it over. They're here for a reason. They're really good. They're tough to block up front. It's a good defense. It'll be a big challenge.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian. Good evening, I guess it is at this point. I kind of going off Mookie's question. Obviously, first playoff home game in 25 years, and you're in your backyard, similar to that. I mean, do these types of moments that you get to cherish being a part of with your hometown team, I mean, does it still hit you the same, or do you just kind of go through it right now as business as usual? Yeah,
it's business as usual. That's what it needs to be. These are important games. They're important because it's the next game. Obviously, we understand what's at stake, but you have to be consistent in your approach of what got you to this point. Have had the opportunity to be in a lot of these games, and it is the next game. There's preparation that needs to be put into it. There's practice that needs to be put into it. We got to continue just building and getting better like we have all year, and get ready to play a really good team. And that's what it's all about, John. This time of year, you got to really stay dialed in and focused and being consistent with what you got you to this point. There's no special recipes this time of year. It's coming up with a good plan, practicing well, and then ultimately going out there and execute it at a high level.
So there's just never a point where you're like, oh, I'm here in Bill Stadium where I used to watch games as a kid, or, hey, I remember 25 years ago, the last time this was here. None of those moments hit you, or is that something maybe you look back on later down the line?
Yeah, it'll probably be later on the line. At first, when I first got here, we had those questions early on and at St. John Fisher and things like that. And look, this place means a lot to me. And but this game, you really you can't get too nostalgic about things or look too far ahead of things. It'll get you in this league real quick.
Brian.
Thanks, John.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Good, Josh. How are you? Happy New Year to you.
Good. Happy New Year to you. How important was it to get John Brown back on the field and get him some work in the first half, considering he's been out since mid-November?
Yeah, it was great to get him out there. He's an important part of our offense. Really adds a lot of value to us on the perimeter, and it was good to get him back and get him a few balls in there. He's a heck of a player for us. He was last year, and he's fought through some things this year, but have all the confidence in the world in him.
And I mean, I know that what he brings to the table and what Cole Beasley brings to the table is completely different, but with Cole's status kind of being up in the air right now, and he's dealing with some injuries, how good is it? Almost pretty good timing to get John Brown back and have another piece of the chess puzzle, if you will.
Yeah, it's always good when you can get all your best players out there and playing on the field. I mean, that's what makes the game is those guys that are out there doing it. And very happy to have John back.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Josh.
Happy 2021, Brian.
Same to you, John.
Tell me you were at the comeback game.
No, you asked me this. You asked me this like last year or the other year, and I said, I don't know, maybe I watched it on TV. And you're like, it wasn't on TV. But that was like 30 years ago where I was at. It's well documented. It was great to be a fan that time of year. And obviously we have, Coach Frank coming in, and I'm sure he has a lot of memories from this place.
You've got a good memory too, because yes, I did ask you that. Very good.
Yeah.
What do you make of what Frank Reich accomplished that day, and what he's done just as a coach and as a person?
Yeah, well, I think it's, as a Buffalo Bill fan growing up, it's, everybody was in amazement that day. But I'll just speak more to kind of what he's done, where he's been at. He's done a great job. He's a heck of a football coach. He's got his program going in the right direction. He's a successful coordinator at Philadelphia. He's a good man too. He's a really good man. I know he does a lot for this community some, and he's a good person, a good football coach.
Lastly, for me is as I look back on the season and how teams tried to defend you, especially during that 2-game rut, the Tennessee game kind of stands out, and how they kind of forced the offense to dink and duck down the field. How much do you think your offense, because you've talked about, I think we're starting to find our identity a few weeks ago, how much do you think this offense has evolved to be able to counter whatever some defenses that have given you trouble in the past, to counter what they've done?
Yeah, after 16 weeks, 16 games, you've pretty much gotten every defense throughout the year, whether you got man, whether you get soft zone, whether you get pressure. There's not much you haven't gotten. It's probably similar throughout the league. Our job is just to go out there and execute whatever we get.
Thanks, Brian. Have a good one.
You too, War.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Hey, Matt. How you doing, bud?
Good. What did it mean to you to see Isaiah McKenzie have the day that he did?
A lot. He's an important part of our team. He's like that little Energizer bunny. He gets everybody going, and he's just, since he's been here, I'm so happy that we acquired him got him from Denver when Denver let him go, and he's got energy. He's got great focus. He works incredibly hard at practice. He's on the show team and, going a million reps, and then he's coming over there on the offense and doing a bunch of the reps. You root for guys like that kind of came up the hard way and just keep on fighting and keep on scrapping. And he's a big part of the glue in that receiver room. He's got a great personality, and he's fortunate enough to be around some good coaches in Chad and Mark, and then some good players where he likes to, ask a lot of questions, soak things up, and just a terrific teammate, and very happy for him yesterday and how he contributed to the success of our football team.
How do you think Josh has found the balance between, with a guy like Stephon Diggs, he's targeted him a bunch, right? Because you have a good player, you're going to throw him the ball, but how has he been able to make that work? And have, sometimes it can be almost a distraction to have one guy you're trying to force the ball to, but he's done it and found a good balance with it.
Yeah, I mean, he's thrown the ball a lot to Steph, but he's thrown a lot of ball to Bees and His job, and he'll tell you this, and he knows that, is to make sure he's making the right decision, lead us down to score points. Wherever that goes, it goes. In that touchdown, they were doubling Steph over there. They had a post high safety. They ran him over to Steph. He turned and he threw the one-on-one play over there to Isaiah. There's times that happens, Matt, throughout the year. We played some other teams where they doubled Steph and Beasley, and you got to throw it to the next guy. His job is to find the open guy, and I always tell him that's your favorite receiver right there, is the open one. And that's the job of the receivers and the tight ends. Is let's not make it harder than it is. Your job is to get open and catch the ball. So if you're open and we throw you the ball, you better catch it. And if you're not open, then we're throwing it to somebody else. So that's about as simple as we can make it.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, Dan Fates, good to see you.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
Good. You always talk about how each week you can't just bottle up what you did one week and carry it into the next week, that the league's so challenging like that. But how important was it yesterday to stay hot and to carry that momentum and confidence that this offense has had leading into the postseason?
Well, I think it's important anytime you step out on the field is to try to play your best football, regardless of when it is, where it is, what time it is, what quarter it is, who's playing. We're all professionals. We all have a job to do that. We want to go out there and do it well. So whether it's, Matt Barkley or Antonio or Isaiah, those guys put a lot of work in, and they're here for a reason, as we've always talked about. They fit the criteria we're looking for. And, we don't want to go out there and have a bunch of 3-and-outs. We're going out there to try to score. That's the objective. That's what we're charged with as an offense, and that's what we try to do. It's not always perfect. Got to fight through some things at certain times, but we're all professionals. We all want to do our job at the highest level, and that's what we're always challenged with offensively.
Thanks, Brian. Happy New Year.
Same to you, Jen.
All right, that's all for today, Daboll. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys.